Chapter 2, Day 2, 8:12 a.m. Tim's Embankment, London. The morning sun cast its rays on the cafe table and peered in through the windows that overlooked the Riverwalk along the River Thames north bank. The cafe was already a buzz of activity, mostly coffee and breakfast takeaways. A chill-out track crooned in the background of the tiny yet popular cafe as morning commuters scurried in and out with their orders. Even with the ear-splitting tumult of clinking glasses and plates, Calla stayed focused, tuning out intrusions and people's voices, bridging the gaps in her past ranked high on her to-do list. It had taken her all of 7 months to persuade Filler to give her access to the restricted database rooms, and now her efforts had brought nothing. Calla glanced up from her laptop as cars zipped past on the Victoria Embankment. "I'll close the window," a waiter said. "Sometimes blue skies can be deceptive." In April, Jack and Nash were running late. The cell phone beside her laptop had been silent all morning. She scrolled through its apps, landing on a text message Allegra had sent the night before. "Calla, they have selected me to lead Task Force Carbonado. You're part of the team. I'll see you in Berlin tomorrow. Allegra." Calla set the phone on the table. Dropping her shoulders, she scanned the summary notes emailed overnight. Calla didn't know how long she would be on Task Force Carbonado and needed to get cover at the museum before the end of the day. It was the 9th time ISTF had called on her expertise in the last 24 months. Could she decipher the Hadrius manuscript? Contrary to thoughts shared at yesterday's briefing, the Voynich was a fabricated document. However, she would need to see the Hadrius text herself to be sure. For several minutes, she sat at her computer, not typing. A reflection of her face was visible on her computer's black screen, and she stared at it with contempt. It reminded her how yesterday's effort had fallen short. To get some guidance, she could visit the foster home where she had been left as a child. The investigator had provided the address. She could find out what happened to her family. Somebody there had to know something. Calla could also look for Mila Rembrandt, a relative she'd been told, using an ancestry search company. Her adoptive parents, Mama and Papa Kress, had told her many years ago that Mila came looking for her when she was 8 years old. How could they have kept such information from her? Calla had been at boarding school and never learned of the visit until her high school graduation day. She didn't speak to Mama Kress for days. The question still lingered. Why had Mila come looking? "Would you like another kiwi juice?" With a glance at her watch, she looked up at the waiter. "Thank you." The guys were late for the breakfast appointment, and the next ISTF session started in 20 minutes. Calla twiddled her diamond ear stud between her fingers, a pensive habit from her adolescent years, and picked up her glass of kiwi juice. Before she could take a sip, it dawned on her that Allegra was a political director in the FCO and had access to files on past members of the civil service, including Bonnie Tileman. If anyone could help, Allegra could. "You're a million miles from here." The voice came from behind her. She turned to see Jack approach with an espresso in hand. "Jack?" Today, like all days, he wore the usual Converse shoes, Levi's jeans, an Adidas sports jacket, much like his uniform, and sported shoulder-length dreadlocks. Jack Clive was the most carefree person she knew, even in a setting as formal as ISTF. As he paced her way, he commanded attention. She giggled and wondered why she'd never given him credit for his sturdy frame, long arms, and broad shoulders. He had toned up in the last few weeks. Hanging around Nash would do that to any man. Jack's childlike eyes smiled at Calla as he dropped his bag on the chair next to her and plopped into a seat. "To what do I owe your tardiness?" she said. He grinned. "Nash here yet?" "Not yet. So, were you schmoozing with one of your client lists of government agencies? Or, let me see, private corporations? Or perhaps a security firm like the gig months ago with Nash at the American Embassy?" she asked. He said with a smirk. "Don't be bashful, Jack. You've made quite a name for yourself recently. I hardly see you anymore, unless it's ISTF work. I miss us hanging out." "Me too. But hey, guilty, I was on a call." She grinned. When we first met, you were so keen not to sell your technologies. What changed your mind? That conference in Edinburgh changed my life. And your bank account, she said, smirking. Laughter sparkled in his eyes. Maybe leaving the Indian Ocean behind had more impact on me than I thought. I like a good gig. Jack, all I'm saying is I miss you dragging me to silly street dance classes. His boyish grin was infectious. I know. We'll do it again soon. When I retire. Never. Jack, you're only 31 and one of the most creative entrepreneurs on every major science and technology website and platform, might I add. You're just cool and can demand any fee, possibly any place of employment. So can you. Her curiosity got the better of her. Not like you. How much did you get for that smart securities job with the European Parliament? A nonchalant shrug lifted his shoulders. Just 'cause I share everything with you, okay? 7 million. Sterling? Sterling. Hey, researching and developing technology takes money and offers you one of the best bachelor pads in London. Hey, if it's the only way I can get you and Nash to hang out with Korean barbecue takeaway, then so be it. He leaned over and turned her laptop to face him. Now, what are you up to? He smirked. You need to give this a rest. Ancestry.com will not get you any closer to solving the riddle of your past. Had she acted wisely, telling him about her family quest? How could Calla resist? Jack was her close friend, and she needed a sanity check sometimes. Jack gave her a peck on the cheek. You're an alien, and you know it. She grinned. I suppose you'd know. Tell me, Jack, when was the last time you dialed home to your mothership? His eyes lit. There's nothing great to write about being a boat boy in Mahe, although I do love my home country. Nothing like the Seychelles. She wriggled. He was right. Yes, but there's much to say about having a family, however dysfunctional, paying for your education and earning a gazillion scholarships. Jack, I admire and envy you at the same time. A smirk flashed on his face, and she edged closer. Listen, do you think I'm crazy hunting for clues to my background? I mean, wouldn't you want to know where you came from? Jack shifted with a nervous grin. I suppose so, Cal. Your parents were crazy to let you go, if they're still alive. He took her hand in his. I don't want you to get hurt. They may not be all that. A happy family is a dream. No one has one, in your own words. Look at my dysfunctional family. Don't let the past dictate who you are or who you'll become. Write your own story. From where I'm looking, you're doing great. He patted her left hand and withdrew it to take a sip of his espresso. Was Jack right? Kala never pictured what she might find. He cast a glance at the main entrance. Ah, here comes Nash. He's finally joined us. Nash Shields pushed through the doors. His navy blue blazer hung above faded jeans. His tousled, sandy brown hair, still wet from his shower earlier that morning, reminded Calla he liked to run first thing at dawn. Well built behind the loose clothes he wore, he liked to stay comfortable. At 6'3", his lean build and posture spoke of years of military discipline, though that didn't rob him of the sparkle in his engaging and deep gray eyes. Quiet confidence dazzled from his intent look, and he usually followed it with a sharp sense of humor. Nash never failed to astound her. Here he was, intelligent and athletic enough to make her self-conscious by looking at him. He was extremely attractive, and as she watched him move, she hoped he didn't know that fact. He shot them a brief nod. After making his way toward their table, he lowered into the extra seat next to Calla, then gave her a peck on the cheek. Hey, beautiful. Any new archaeological finds I should know about? I find your work fascinating. His standard American vernacular charmed Calla. She felt a blush coming on and hated that she was awkward around men she found handsome. As a general rule, she kept them at arm's length, Even though she'd known Nash for the 2 years they'd worked together at ISTF, recently something had changed and she couldn't explain it. She snapped closed the laptop. You forget, I haven't been on a historical dig in months. Can't afford to anymore. By the way, I'm going to Berlin. Allegra is leading Task Force Carbonado. She's asked me to document her work at the Pergamon Museum. The memo came through last night. Jack and I are also on board, Nash replied. Jack raised an eyebrow. You mean the Allegra Driscoll? Winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature and the Prime Minister's special representative on cybersecurity? Plus, she does a bunch of other things. I don't think she was there yesterday at the briefing, Jack said. Calla couldn't contain her excitement. That's right. Some of her many titles, and no, she wasn't there. You going to Berlin too? Calla asked. No, we'll be here, Nash replied. Calla ran a finger on the rim of her empty glass, studying Nash. He took a napkin and wiped away a drip of juice from the corner of her squirming lips. She removed his hand gently. This is a genuine opportunity for me, and challenging work. The Hadris is no ordinary manuscript. He extended her a curious glance. ISCF has now agreed with Germany for a group of specialists like you to look at it in Berlin, Nash said. Allegra is right for this, Jack said. Calla's eyes didn't leave Nash's face. Glaring, she gave him a nod. It's fascinating watching the woman work. Ever been to Berlin? Nash said. Once, she said. I'm sure I can still manage German. Jack leaned in. Time to go. Mason Laskfell is on his way. They'll now disclose detailed assignments relating to the task force. Calla had never spoken a word to Mason, the head of ISTF, with the code name Red Fox. Like all organization heads, everyone knew who he was. He never took one-on-one meetings. Except for the few times she'd seen his name on memorandums, he might as well have been a ghost. Jack tilted his head, his eyebrows knitting as if he'd come by peculiar information. He asked me if I'd seen you, Calla. 9 a.m. ISTF, basement level, technology museum. They had called him a mind reader, which was why many avoided him. The morons had said this was his primary criminal investigative procedure. Mason Lesval leaned forward and placed both palms against the display glass. Fatigue gripped him, and he ran a hand through his hair. If it hadn't been littered with streaks of gray, he swore he could pass for 45, give or take a year. He didn't care. Age was rarely a judge of character or intelligence. How many cryptic and classified codes had he deciphered? Languages, accents, and handwriting. Had it been 20 years since he'd led ISTF? Yes, it was, and that morning's memo to staff had acknowledged his years as head of the organization, the Red Fox. He ran a hand across his chin. Told that a closer look at his physique made one think of a striking warrior, he grimaced, imagining himself a lieutenant in Napoleon's army, rather than the expert cryptographer and capable intelligence analyst he'd become. Now, chief of ISTF's research, signals, intelligence, and linguistic divisions, he thought about the enviable agency position. But it could all go wrong. Calla Cress stood in his way. Mason leaned his 6-foot frame against the safety glass. Spotlights above his head illuminated the museum pieces, piercing his eyes. He tugged at his new chocolate suit and straightened the Armani shirt. The dragonfly charm in his boutonniere with sapphires and mini diamonds sparkled in the overhead lights. His hand slid over its rough edge, lips compressing into a tight smile. Today, the Prime Minister's office needed his service for a briefing that afternoon, but his mind drifted elsewhere. He needed more time and checked the schedule on his phone. Mason tapped the glass window before him, displaying an ancient cryptography machine. How had the Hadrias manuscript appeared again? Why now? Was this the manuscript? Was his search over? He wasn't ready. His cell phone buzzed and he twitched. It was Lillian, his assistant. Calla Cress is here. Send her down to the museum section, he said, his voice echoing off the walls. 5 minutes later, Calla squeezed through the door into the small gallery. Mason drew away from the glass and watched her. Athletic, exceptionally beautiful, though awkward, she paced into the room with a quick step. Sensors lit up above and flooded the stone-tiled floors with artificial light as she inched into the room. Her step wavered, but she strode straight up to him with a fixed gaze, her palms clutching her electronic tablet. "You asked to see me?" She might just be the bait he needed for Allegra. He would even overlook that she'd been untried for the task he required her to do. Youth and ignorance were what he desired. Calla was close to Allegra, he'd been told. He edged toward her. "You'll be joining Allegra in Berlin." She squinted. "Is that what you wanted to see me about?" Mason ignored her question and slotted the cell phone in his pocket, not once shifting his eyes from her. "Ever been to Berlin?" She nodded. Her antics amused him. "It'll expose you firsthand to some crucial intelligence work. Allegra is one of the best. In Germany, her diplomatic approach will be crucial. On Task Force Carbonado, she named you her right-hand person." Calla kept her eyes on him. "I'm honored, naturally." Mason stroked his chin. He watched her step back, shifting her feet and distancing herself from him. Perhaps she believed the rumors about his alleged telepathic abilities. Good, he could use fear. Intimidation always produced the result he desired. Mason examined her posture, straight and no nonsense. He stared right into her being. "Your work in Berlin is confidential, even to those within ISTF." She tore her eyes away from his, shifting them toward the glass display case. "Why's that? Has Allegra not told you?" he asked. The lights overhead dimmed again, as neither had moved in the last several minutes. Then her lips quivered. "She left yesterday for Berlin. I haven't spoken to her, but I'll join her shortly." Mason moved an inch closer, shortening the distance between them. The motion switched the sensor lights back on. "Good. Allegra is a great resource for ISTF." Calla studied the dragonfly in his suit. "Was there something else you wanted to see me about?" Mason turned his back to her and strolled to the other side of the small room. After a few steps, he stopped at the glass display on the opposite side, showcasing communication systems that went back as far as the First World War. He reached into his jacket pocket and drew out an electronic device. In the dim light, Calla twitched, catching sight of the mobile communications unit. Mason searched for clues in her expression as he handed her the sleek gadget. "Do you know what this is?" "Looks like a cell phone." "It's a new prototype from our research and development labs. I've been looking for an opportunity to test this device. My chance has come. You'll test it for me?" Calla delayed a few seconds, then took the phone. Unlike most smartphones, this was the size of two small, translucent fused credit cards with dual-sided touchscreen capabilities. Its laser lights lit up in blue and stroked, displaying an elaborate keypad and different functions. She slid her finger across its smooth surface, and it recognized her in an instant as the screen produced the words. "Morning, Calicrass. Your device will now be configured." Mason's phone buzzed again. He ignored it and studied her. "I want to be informed of anything Allegra discovers in Berlin. Keep a diary," he said. "This phone helps you gather information and assess situations. It's different from most smartphones and has a high-definition screen, layered menus, touch activity, offline caching, and, best of all, it's packed with knowledge on locations." "I see," she said. "I'm sure you'll discover more as you use it. You're quite techie, I hear." "I get by," Calla said, studying the phone. "I've known about the ISTF research labs, designing communication devices. This is an incredible achievement." He knew the high-tech angle would get her. Calla ceased her examination and switched it off. "But is this necessary? Surely Allegra will share the Berlin report. What sort of information do you need me to document?" She wasn't easily fooled. He persisted with care. "Just note your observations. We'll determine later if the information is useful. This could be momentous for your intelligence career." Calla pocketed the phone. "I already have a career. This is a job. I'll do my best and need to go now. Was that all? Mason gave her an abrupt nod. Have a pleasant trip. She tipped her head and stole out of the room without turning back. Mason waited a few seconds and then reached for his secure cell phone. He pressed the speed dial. Slate, is it working? A husky, Italian accented voice spoke in low tones. Yes, she needs to have it turned on. Did you activate the function? Damn right I did.